Welcome to Building Your Leader Brand. Today on the show, Bob is speaking with Mike Morrison.
I think when you start becoming oversubscribed in your one-to-one work, that's one of the clear signals. You know, when you have amassed a following, amassed a reputation, that means you are turning people away. That is showing that there is a larger crowd of people out there who need your help, need your support, than you are able to service. Because if you're doing one-on-one work, you have to have a ceiling on how much you take on, because there's only so many hours in the day, right?
Hi there, and welcome back to Building Your Leader Brand. My name is Bob Gentle, and every week I speak to incredible people who share their secrets to building, marketing, and monetizing their expertise and the mindset you need for your business to grow and thrive. Before I go too much further, if you're new, take a second to subscribe. If you're not new, check you've subscribed. You probably haven't. Statistics would suggest that's the case. And if you're new to the show, you will probably also love the Personal Brand Business Roadmap. It's 50 pages of everything you need to start, scale, or fix your expert business. On the topic of expert business, today's guest is Sir Mike Morrison. Mike, welcome to the show.
I'm technically a lord.
Okay, Lord Michael Morrison.
Yes, as long as we're counting those kind of, you can pay £100 to become a lord. I was gifted one of those as a wedding favour. I've got like 1 metre square of land somewhere in Scotland. So Lord Mike Morrison.
Yeah, let's not go there.
No.
Mike, welcome to the show. So for the listeners meeting you for the first time, can you tell them a little bit about who you are, where you are, and what you do?
Absolutely. So I'm Mike Morrison. I'm an expert in online memberships and subscription retention. And I'm founder of Membership Geeks, where we teach influencers and experts how to start and grow successful online membership businesses. And we do that through our free content and resources that we share across our blog, podcast, and YouTube channel, as well as in our own membership about memberships, the Membership Academy.
So, from my mind, you are my go-to guy for expert memberships. I love your business. I love the vibe of your business. And I'm very excited to speak about this today because it's very pertinent for me. But I think it's very pertinent for a lot of people. And a lot of people are drawn to the membership style business, sometimes for the lure of what appears to be easy money, sometimes because there's just a very good call to greater impact, I guess. And sometimes it's just the next logical step in scaling. Sometimes it's a blend of all three. If I'm honest, I think a lot of people are drawn to memberships far too early. But what I really wanted to challenge you with today, and I haven't prepared you on this, but I just wanted to imagine a parallel universe where Mike Morrison decides one day, you know what, I'm going to start my own business. And you're starting from zero. You don't have an audience. You don't have necessarily even a professional reputation. How might you approach knowing what you know? Because you get to take that with you. How might you approach that journey now?
I think knowing what I know from not just my work with memberships, but everything before that, when I started out freelancing, started out agency, my focus would be on building that audience, building that following, building that brand around my expertise. That needs to come first. And when you say some people are drawn to memberships early, I think people are drawn to monetization perhaps a step too early. And they don't assemble a crowd. They don't put any time or effort into building a following. They just assume that if I've got the right product, I've got the right offer, people will flock to it. And it just doesn't happen like that. So I would start podcasting, first and foremost. It's one of my big loves in terms of brand building and demonstrating expertise and literally getting your voice out there, because I think that affinity to you, your personality, is as important, if not more important, than the knowledge that you're sharing. I think that's kind of the secret sauce. So I would start podcasting. I would start putting content out there. And I would start working with clients on a one-on-one basis, even if initially it was for relatively small things, but things that are adjacent to membership. So if I was kind of going down the route of, I need to end up in the same place I am today, I would start helping people out. So whether that would be kind of using a free 10-minute review of a sales page or a membership concept or something like that, that I would record and utilize for content as well. But that would very quickly help me to get the results, get the credibility, get people on my side who can help me to spread the word. That would pair up with the podcasting that I was doing and all that sort of stuff to build that following, to get social proof that will help me to stand out against other people in the membership space, but also against AI. You know, again, if we're literally starting today, you need to do stuff that will help you stand out against AI. And so just showing that you know the most stuff or just answering people's questions isn't enough to cut it. You need to show the human side. You need to show what you, the person, can do, the effect you can create, the change that you can produce, and showing the work being done, recording things like 10 to 15, a 15-minute like speedy session or something like that you are doing with people, while having a content vehicle that shares you, your personality, and your voice. I think those would be my main starting points for trying to build that momentum and build that following, build that audience. That I would then make sure that I'm calling on to validate my idea for the membership, to find out what they need, what their problems are, in order to inform how my membership might solve them. But I wouldn't do the monetization piece. I wouldn't build the membership until I had 300, 400, 500 people on my email list who were aligned with what I'm doing, and until I had actually researched amongst those people. So it's not just build an email list and then you hit a magic number and you go out and create a product. You need to draw from those people. You need to ask them what they're struggling with. You need to create content that's on a website where you can dig into stats to see what content is most popular, what's being most consumed, what topics are resonating the most. Like, you need to be doing that boring research in order to inform what people want so that you can actually craft the solution to it. So that's probably a little long-winded, but that's where I'd start. And those would be the initial stages. And hopefully I'd end up where I am or even further along.
So I think what's interesting listening to you there is a lot of people do rush in and then they wonder why it's a struggle uphill all the time. The sort of 300, you gave a number, and it's very easy for people to latch on to, okay, so 300 people I need to get on my list.
Yeah.
There are some people who push their way into memberships, and then there are others who are kind of pulled into it because it's the next logical step for them. If anybody's looking for signals, okay, it's time for me to look at extending into membership from being a consultant, for example. What are the signals that are telling them it's time to look at this?
I think when you start becoming oversubscribed in your one-to-one work, that's one of the clear signals. You know, when you have amassed a following, amassed a reputation, that means you are turning people away. That is showing that there is a larger crowd of people out there who need your help, need your support, than you are able to service. Because if you're doing one-on-one work, you have to have a ceiling on how much you take on, because there's only so many hours in the day, right? So what most people will do is when they start becoming oversubscribed, they put their prices up. Great. Absolutely, you know. But even then, if you have more people coming who you're having to turn away, if you're turning away more people than you're accepting, or if you're having a lot of people where their needs are fairly similar, so it's not, 20 people contacted me this month and they all wanted a different thing. But if you're starting to get dozens of people who are all kind of wanting help with the same stage of the process, and then maybe more leaning towards, I just kind of need someone to point me in that direction. I just need some guidance. I'm willing to do the work myself on the execution. I kind of just need that expert vision, that expert pathway or what have you. But if you're starting to kind of see those sort of patterns, where it's not necessarily people who just want to throw money at you and have you do it all for them. They're willing to do the work themselves. They just need to know what to work on. They just need to know where to go. They just need some information gaps filled. These are the kind of signals you're going to start to get that would suggest, okay, perhaps there's another modality in which I serve my audience. Perhaps there's a segment of my audience who are never going to be in a position to either be able to invest or to actually benefit from working with me one-on-one, but because their needs are all within the same realm, because there's clearly identifiable market needs as opposed to individual needs, this is something that I could service with a membership or with a course or with a workshop. Again, it's not starting with the membership. Like, membership is just a model. It's a model.
It's just a revenue model. Really.
Yeah, it's a model for essentially providing solutions to problems. That's all we do in business. We provide solutions to problems. We are professional problem fixers. And so it all needs to start with that. Are there people who have a problem? Can you conceive of a solution? Like, are you equipped to solve that problem in whatever guise? Is it whether you're sitting down across the table from them or thousands of miles away on a live stream? Could you solve their problem? Is the problem so compelling that someone is willing to put their hand in their pocket and pay you to solve it? And are you proficient at connecting the dots? Like, you could have the best solution, they could have the most painful problem, but if you cannot get your messaging, your communication, if you don't have that connection to them, or if you don't have that audience, you just know that people are out there with a problem, then it doesn't really matter. You need to be able to connect the dots. And is it a problem you want to dedicate yourself to solving? Like, it all needs to kind of start from there before you look at the structure, the model for how you do that. There's a well-known saying in design that form follows function, right? That you figure out, okay, what does something need to do before you start to look at, okay, so how does that look? What colors are used? What does your logo need to convey before you start looking at the fonts that you're using? Form always follows function, whether it's design, whether it's web development, which is kind of, I'm a reformed web developer, or whether it's business models. Form needs to follow a function. And too many people start with the form because they hear memberships are a model that will help you achieve X, Y, and Z. And absolutely. But you need to know what the purpose of it is. You need to know what the problem is that you're solving. And that is critical to being able to actually determine, okay, is a membership the best way to solve this? Because it might be a course, or it might be that the only real way to solve the problems within your market that you want to solve and that you can solve is one-on-one. I love memberships. I eat, sleep, and breathe memberships. But not everyone should start a membership, because not every problem is solved with a membership.
Yeah.
So form needs to follow function. You need to build that audience. Only by building the audience can you understand their problems. Only by understanding their problems can you conceive of a solution. Only by understanding how the solution would be best administered can you then figure out the correct model, the correct kind of business to deliver that.
So the form follows function question, or phenomena, or guidance, whatever you want to call it, is really interesting. And I'd like to speak about a couple of assumptions that I'm probably guilty of, and I think a lot of my clients are probably guilty of, and to a large extent, you could argue rightly so, which is my clients tend to be fairly self-sufficient, assertive business owners who would probably identify as they're not the type of people who join memberships or groups. And I suspect that there's an assumption there on what that membership might look like. And you, having the diversity of perspective that you do, will see memberships where senior executives and business owners who have multiple six-figure businesses feel naturally at home. How might we reframe the membership for that kind of person? I think when we're looking at sort of the entry-level business, we know what that membership looks like, and they're accustomed to that kind of environment to get them to the point where they're flying a little bit. But the next tier up, I think it's easy to say they're not joiners, but I sense that's not the reality. And I know it's not the reality because I have a few people in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it does just come down to understanding that audience and what they need, what are they missing, where are they now, where do they want to be, and what is going to close that gap. Generally with memberships, a lot of people think that it's just about the content. It's about giving them stuff. It's about having the most courses. It's about having the most features. When the truth is, people don't join memberships for the stuff. They don't join memberships for the content. They join for what the content enables. They're joining for results. They're joining for progress. And so I think if you're aiming for that kind of higher tier of person where it's not, where their needs are not as easily solved with information and education, then it is just tapping into, okay, so what is missing for them? What is their pain point? What is the shortfall? Because everyone has one. And what is their motivator? So a lot of people who are early stage are motivated more by an outcome. They have a very specific point they want to get to. And sometimes that point will be, I want to launch something. I want to launch a podcast. I want to launch a YouTube channel. I want to launch a membership. I want to launch my first retail store. But essentially there's 4 common membership motivators that underpin why someone would join a membership and around which you should kind of build your strategy. Outcome is one. So this is where someone has a goal they want to reach, an outcome they have in mind, a specific problem they want to have solved above all others, where you can literally look at, okay, where's one end of the spectrum, where's the other, what are the milestones, let's break it down, let's create a roadmap. We both have these kind of roadmaps within our own business. I know you've got your brand roadmap, we've kind of got our membership roadmap, where you are showing people the journey, and that's very outcome driven. You can sell that outcome. And that's great. A lot of memberships are centered around that, and that's probably going to be more suited to most early stage people. But the other motivators, people are motivated by mastery, where they are not necessarily looking for an end result. They are looking for marginal gains. They are looking to just continuously evolve, improve, better themselves with no end point in mind. It's just that continuous development of mastery. Music memberships, for example, you never complete guitar playing. Like, you can always get better. There's always something to master. It's never done. And, personal development. No one's ever complete. I know a lot of people try to sell this idea of, here's a framework to become an alpha male. Let's not even talk about that notion, but there is no framework for final completion of humanity. So it's mastery. It's never ending. It's continuous improvement. It's a lot more about marginal gains. So that's another big motivator. Connection is a huge motivator now more than ever, where so many of your problems can be solved by AI. So many tasks can be completed by AI. Websites can be coded by AI in a split second. So many endpoints can be reached by tools now, but it can't give you connection. And whether that is connection on a human level, whether it is connection for benefit, for advantage, so building a network of other people who are at a same sort of level, but in different industries that you can tap into for your business, connecting to people with perspectives and with expertise that you don't have and being able to share that with people, that massive, massive motivator. People are driven by connection. Again, you're going to have this a bit more with people who are a little further on, where actually their issue isn't a lack of knowledge, it's perhaps their network isn't where it needs to be, or it's that, I don't remember the source of this, but the whole, you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. That's not Napoleon Hill, is it? Anyhow.
I think it has multiple.
Yeah. It's like kind of one of those things that'll just be attributed on a meme image, but you're the sum total of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And so there's a lot of people kind of in the business space where it's like, okay, if you want to up your game, You need to be in better rooms. You need to be in better tables. You need to be with people who are more on your level, your wavelength. So that connection motivator is a big thing as well. Then the fourth type of membership motivator is resource. Some people just need a resource. They just need somewhere that has tools, that has templates, that has short videos on real specific things, where they don't want a community. They're not really driven by some big overarching goal. They just want things that will save them time, that will make their lives easier, that will be a resource to you. So, for example, one of our members, Mark Warner, he runs Teaching Packs, very long-running membership that helps teachers of Key Stage 3 to 4, I think. And his membership is purely resource-driven. He has pre-made packs of learning materials for all the key topics. I think there's more of a focus on maths. And teachers basically pay, and they can just come in, just download whatever they want. There's no path, there's no roadmap, there's no end goal in mind, there's no connection or community. It's just a resource. Web designers, graphic designers, pre-made templates, fonts, things that will save you an hour or two here and there. AI membership, so AI consultants have a membership where it's prompts for the different AI platforms to get the most optimal end result. So those are your 4 primary membership motivators, and it doesn't matter what level someone is at. There will be people who are more driven in depending on the topic, depending on kind of your niche or your niche. People who are more aligned with one of those core. There'll also be a little bit of a mix. You know, someone who's seeking mastery will also benefit from connection and resource, but there's generally in successful memberships one kind of North Star membership motivator that everything branches out from. And it's really about trying to tap into what that motivating factor is for your audience. And again, this all comes from just talking to people and listening to what they're saying about where they are, where they want to be, what's missing, what's the shortfall, and then working it all out from there.
It was really interesting. Those 4 motivators, we've spoken several times, and I've never quite heard it put like that. It's really useful. And I think, those raw ingredients for motivation allow you a little bit of a creative approach to it. And it does break assumptions, which I really like. This whole question of capacity for people one-to-one, that's kind of my story at the moment. I am very close to capacity, and it would be very easy to say, you know what, I'm just going to put the price up.
Yeah.
That's probably going to happen to an extent. And the question of, this was where I wanted to go next, being able to look at, okay, you can carry on doing what you're doing. You can simply extend that into a membership, but you can also look at, there's a segment of my audience that I could look at specifically building a membership around, or there's a particular challenge. For my clients, sales is probably the biggest challenge. They're great with the marketing, great with building a brand, but actually connecting with and inviting people into sales conversations, that's the big challenge. So maybe focusing on that one thing, that is very interesting. There's lots of different ways that you can look at it. And I think this is where I see a lot of people thinking, this is what I've always done, so this is what I need to build a membership around.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe we can be a bit more creative. Maybe you've been a very successful instructional designer. You're not going to sell instructional design necessarily through a membership, but the guy who always springs to mind, you'll know who I'm talking about. So Roger Wakefield was a plumber in Texas, and he started making YouTube videos teaching people how to do little plumbing jobs around the house. And he's quite a colorful character, big handlebar mustache. And very quickly, he was oversubscribed as a plumber. And he then had lots of plumbers coming around saying, look, how have you done this? And so now he runs a big education business for plumbers, a big membership site. And obviously the YouTube channel generates quite a lot of revenue as well. I think he's somewhere around 100,000 YouTube subscribers, which for a plumber is pretty decent. But it would be very easy for him to just focus on teaching people how to do their home plumbing.
Yeah.
But he innovated, focused on a subset. And I think there's opportunities there for when you do get to the point where you're at capacity, just because that's what got you there doesn't mean that's what's going to get you there.
Yeah.
Take a moment and look at, well, how could I maybe look at a reset?
Well, this is the thing. Being oversubscribed, if you're starting off in that one-on-one place, being oversubscribed gives you options. And I think it's at that point, we all do it when we're starting out working. We take on jobs we, in the rear view, would prefer not to have. We allow ourselves little compromises because bills have to be paid. And you are, I think most kind of entrepreneurialism education or business education champions the idea of sales at any cost, or it's, if you are getting sales, it's a good thing. There's not as much early stage stuff that has any nuance around, make sure it's actually a client you will want to work with. Make sure it's not somebody who, your heart drops every time an email comes in. Like, don't focus on the actual human side of it. It's just sales are good. But I think once you become oversubscribed, you get to start to think about, okay, what is success, right? Because everything is kind of like, a successful business is the one that attracts customers who pay and make them money. But how much money? How many customers? How many people do you want to work with? And you don't get to think about those problems until you are getting to a point where you're oversubscribed. And then you start to think, okay, is success for me, is it just more revenue? In which case, yes, we can put the price up. Cool. Put the price up, take on a few more customers. Is it growing something that isn't just around me, that's sustainable without me? Okay, oversubscribed. Now we kind of look at start building a team and refining the processes. So you go the agency route. Is it doubling down on just the part of your job that you enjoy the most? In which case it's niching down and it's getting more selective. Is it just lifestyle based? In which case, being more selective, turning more people away, only working with people who fulfill your criteria. That's the way to go. And so I think once you hit that point, really thinking about, what do I want? And that's not done enough, because marketing and sales is about, what do they want? What do they want? How can I give it to them? How can I get them to pay me for it? But that flip, and I remember when it happened for us, that flip is a life changer, where you actually realize, you know what? So many people want what I'm offering. What do I want to offer? How do I want to offer it? Who do I want to work with? Fantastic. They want to work with me, but do I want to work with them? And I remember writing a little manifesto for myself, which point number one was something along the lines of like, no, can I do a
yeah, you can. I know what you're going to say.
No arseholes allowed. And that was just, there was a bunch of other stuff like, we'll never take on a project that we can't deliver on. Like, we'll never try and oversell something. We'll never use hypey, sleazy stuff. So it was more about, how do we want to show up? How do we want our business to be? How do we want our clients to be? And that informed everything. So we started essentially making our clients sell themselves to us. Like, not in an aggressive way. I know some people use that as a sales tactic, but in a legitimate way. Like, you had to apply. You had to fill an application to be considered as a client. And the shock on some people when we turned them down. Yeah, this isn't going to be a right fit for these reasons. Here's where you could go. It was just kind of, well, no, that's not how this is supposed to work. I want to give you money. But I think the journey to things like a membership, to one-to-many monetization for consultants, for people who are working with clients, kind of goes through that path. It goes through the path where you get to flip the, I suppose, power dynamic, the relationship between you and your audience, to really step into yourself as an expert, as someone people want something from, and recognizing that gives you the ability to shape what that means, to narrow down, to expand out, to double down into one area. When we became oversubscribed, we were just kind of a general agency. We helped people with their online businesses, with digital marketing, with the tech side as well. Became oversubscribed in that, so started to become more selective about the type of projects we worked on. It was online communities, it was courses, and it was memberships, back when memberships were still fairly early stage. And we chose that because it was the kind of business we enjoyed, that we were having a lot of fun learning more about, and also the clients were better because they were usually a little further along, they were usually a little more ambitious, they were usually more interesting. Like, some of the most people I've met are people who've started memberships because, we've got people who've got memberships on how to train tropical fish, like how to take care of training people on how to take care of tropical fish. Fantastic musicians, amazing artists, photographers, like highly knowledgeable business expert. They were just interesting people, fun people to work with. And that informed more than anything did. And then we became oversubscribed for that, so we kind of ditched the online courses. When Membership Geeks first started, Membership Geeks will teach you about memberships and online courses. Like, we put out content about online courses. We ditched the courses, we ditched kind of just the pure communities, and we just doubled down and we just narrowed on the agency side. Then we became oversubscribed on the membership stuff where people wanted to hire us, and that's when we started a membership, because we recognize there's a portion of people who need help with this part of the journey, so we'll start a membership for them, and that'll just be a string to the bow, but we'll still mostly consult with people. And then once that was rolling, we realized, actually, no, this is the thing we love, and we stopped working with clients. And it's iteration. It's not just kind of picking a business model and thinking, I want to start a membership. Okay, how do I get there? Like, there's that iterative process, and it's as much about learning about yourself as it is about learning about your audience and what they need.
I think what you said about, and I'll paraphrase, but you kind of need to pass through the eye of being oversubscribed in order for this to be the next logical progression. I don't think I guess it would be easy to say that's not always the case. And guitar teachers, but actually they probably are.
Yeah. It's not always the case. And, obviously we're talking mostly about people who are perhaps consultants. They are servicing clients one-on-one. But of course, there's some people who've gone down more of the influencer route where they're not actually providing services to their market. And so obviously things are different for them. But I do think if you are in that place where you are trading time for money one-on-one, where you are working directly with clients, then when we talked before about signals, that point of oversubscription, or that point where you're kind of thinking, can I take this person on? Do I have the room? That's a huge signal, but it's a huge, huge opportunity. And I think having passed through the eye of that needle gives you probably that stronger foundation for everything that comes next, whether it's a membership, whether it's building a big agency, whether it's kind of deciding, you know what, I'm just going to cap my capacity at 20 hours a week and I'm going to double my price because actually that's the lifestyle I want. Tuning into that, tuning into how your success looks informs everything else that comes next, because that really should be the guide.
So anybody listening, membershipgeeks.com, there is a world of resource there. You also have a very active public Facebook group.
We do, yes. So we've got nearly 20,000 membership owners in there. And if people go to talkmemberships.com, we've got that domain set up to redirect you to the group, because it's a lot easier to remember than facebook.com/group/352. So yeah. So talkmemberships.com, that takes you into the free Facebook group.
And yours is a very good value for money membership. I'm not currently a member, but I think that might be happening again quite soon.
Glad to hear it.
So moving into part 2, this is really where I'm just finding my stride with this new segment, but I'm really enjoying it. If you've only been listening for the last 3 months, you probably hear this every week, but it's still new to me. In fact, Mike, this is a milestone for me today. I didn't mention it last week, but this is episode 301.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So you are my 301th. Why am I saying that? Because it's a big deal for me. But yes, so I've only been doing this new segment for about the last 10 episodes, but I'm going to invite you to share 3 things people can go and take action on today. You've had the brief. You kind of know what's on the table. Go nuts. Thing number one.
Yeah, so I know we've kind of talked about, books people should read and actions they should take. My go-to, one of my favorite books conceptually and practically, is Fix This Next by Mike Morrison. I loved the concept of a Maslow's hierarchy of needs-esque approach to running and scaling a business. And it was one of those things where when I read it, it's like, this is the most obvious approach to achieving sustainable growth in your business and building the right kind of foundation and focusing on the right things at the right point. So I would highly recommend, like, every entrepreneur should be reading this, Fix This Next by Mike Morrison. I regularly dip back into it as the business grows and scales. And yeah, it's just one of the best business books written personally for me. So yeah,
I think Mike Michalowicz for me is probably one of the smartest, most pragmatic people you could possibly encounter in business.
Yeah.
I haven't read Fix This Next, but I've read Profit First, which completely changed my life.
Yeah.
The Pumpkin Plan and Get Different. His book, which focuses on marketing. Again, I really wish people would pick that book up and take it seriously.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to go and read Fix This Next.
It's fantastic. I've got a feeling it's going to be another Profit First for you in terms of, like, holy heck, how has this not been the way that all business has been taught? So yes, definitely highly recommend that book.
I remember when I first read Profit First, for the listeners, a bit entertainment, I got about 3 chapters in and I threw it across the room. I was so angry with what I'd been doing for the previous 10 years. And the rest is history. And the people involved know who they are.
Love that.
So thing number two.
I'm just kind of thinking of just like little habits that people can change that have made a big difference for me, is starting a to-do list. This isn't the particularly most original thought in the world, but obviously we run from to-do lists. I've got my to-do list for the whole week laid out, and we tick those items off. I use, and a lot of people will use, kind of a digital to-do list or project management system. But how often you would get to the end of the day and kind of think, what have I done today? Has today been productive? I don't feel I accomplished as much as I wanted to do today. And that can gnaw at you and that can affect you the next day. So having a to-do list where I literally like write down every single day what I've achieved, what I've done that has been useful, including the little bits and pieces that come up that weren't on the to-do list. So I can sit down at the end of the day and actually see how well spent my day has been, what I've accomplished, kind of end my day in peace. Again, it's not the most life-changing, world-changing kind of thing. It's just writing another list, but it's write a list of what you've accomplished and kind of focus on that rather than just ticking stuff off your to-do list. So, yeah, I'm a fan of the to-do list.
I think that's actually disproportionately powerful. I have a similar practice that I've really only been doing for the last year, but it's the first year where I haven't sort of regularly become overwhelmed. You know, when you have a productivity system, sort of, I don't know which law of thermodynamics it is, but entropy always kicks in and it just overwhelms you. For me, Ryder Carroll's bullet journal method has been a game changer. So similar to logging the things that you've done, it's simply logging everything that happens during the day. So if there's a to-do item, you write it down, whether it's in a digital system or not, and you cross it off. You don't put a line through it. Have you come across the bullet journal method?
Yes, I have. Yeah, not tried it.
I live by it now.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it is just whichever approach you use, it's shifting the focus away from inputs to outputs, from thinking about what has to be done to think about what has happened, what's been done, and focusing more on what comes out the other end, because that is known. Inputs are usually intangible. Inputs are the things I'm planning on doing. Like, you don't always conceptualize that. And this kind of comes into memberships. The whole thing with something like a membership or a course is that the input and the output become disproportionate. An hour of your time can create something which adds such permanent value to your product, your business, that the output is so much more leveraged, so much more impactful than the time that's gone into it, versus an hour of your time that you bill to your clients as 1 hour of your time. So that shift and that playing around with inputs and outputs, and I know we're kind of going off on a tangent, but I have that approach to my team. Like, everyone on my team's contracted to 35 hours a week. I do not care if they work 35 hours a week. I genuinely don't. If they can accomplish the outputs I expect of them and I ask of them in 3 hours, all credit to them. Take the rest of the week off. I don't care. I do not care about inputs. Well, why do we measure inputs? We've all worked in jobs where we are assessed on. I work in call centers. I was assessed on how quickly I could move from one call to another, how many calls I got done in a day. That's inputs.
Yeah.
What does that tell you? It tells you absolutely nothing. Focusing on the outputs, I instill this. I talk about this in job interviews when I'm interviewing staff. Like, you'll be contacted this, but I don't care when you work, as long as you show up when you need to. Like for team calls, we have a few things that are scheduled in, and as long as everything's done.
So thing number 3.
Thing number 3 is a little cheesy, a little corny, but we've talked about mental health on the show before, and it's a big, big thing I know we both want entrepreneurs to take more seriously. For me, one of the most useful things is my happy folder. So the little folder on my Dropbox that I can access on every device that I'm on, in which I just take screenshots of milestones that I've hit, screenshots of nice positive feedback I've had from members, feedback, the screenshots of like comments or reviews of events I've spoken at where kind of, I'll see my face next to Davina McCall, I think for Atomicon in 2024. Anything which puts a smile on my face and makes me happy and kind of shows me that the work that I'm doing is having an effect, that my own personal metrics of success are being accomplished. And yeah, it'll be everything from literally, I've got screenshots of the first time my bank balance hit 6 figures. Because that's in your brain, okay, that's the first marker. And I've still got screenshots from that from like nearly over a decade ago. But also screenshots from the first time I took a trip that I've been really wanting to take. Like anything that would make me happy, anything that would motivate me, anything that makes me smile. And they all go into a Dropbox folder. And anytime I'm feeling a little stressed, anytime you have that little voice saying, is this all worth it? Or, the website just broke and all my plans went out and I've spent the entire day trying to fix it. This happened yesterday. And I need a little pick-me-up. A little scroll through the happy folder is just a shot in the arm to remind you of why you're doing it, to remind you you're doing good work, and everything's good. Yeah.
I think that sounds like a really productive antidote to the standard negativity bias that we all have. Some people have it more than others.
It's anti-doom scrolling. Like what people do, if they're starting to feel that fog coming in, they're just sitting there doom scroll on a social platform. No, open your happy folder and happy scroll through all the good stuff. Because it's really easy, and we both know, and we've talked about this before on the show, that boulder starts rolling in terms of negativity, in terms of your motivation just being sapped, in terms of what's the point in doing this. They can roll into some dark places. So yeah, a little happy folder, whether it's a physical thing. Some people have like a post-it board, like a one of the boards that they put up and just stick stuff up on. I like the idea that I can whip out my phone and instead of scrolling through whatever nightmares are happening on Twitter or Instagram, and just scroll through a decade of happy stuff.
Yeah. It reminds me a little bit. So when I was beginning my online journey, I was quite insecure with being very visible. And Ian Anderson Gray, I was having a drink with him somewhere. I can't remember where. But he said what he did at the beginning of his online journey was he kept a journal of the nice things people said about him. And it sounds very narcissistic in the beginning, but it's another way of trying to have a productive antidote to this negativity bias.
Yeah.
And I think everybody should be listening, thinking, because we all, especially as business owners, we live in a very dangerous, toxic environment, really, especially online.
Mm-hmm.
Comparison is everywhere you go. It's very difficult to stay positive online. It's designed that way.
Yeah.
And so having your own mechanisms for maintaining positivity is very, very, very important.
Definitely. It's it's been put into use a lot of times, because particularly if you are doing something like running a membership, you're building a brand where it's all online content, we're building online businesses, a lot of the time your world is what we're seeing here on screen now. It is the office you're in. It's that little bubble that you're in. And yes, you get to talk to people remotely, but still, we're having a great conversation, but you are right now, maybe 20 centimeters by 15 centimeters square on my screen. And outside of all that is the same office, the same space. 20,000 people in our Facebook group. We've had tens of thousands of people come through Membership Academy. And for 90% of the time, 95% of my lived experience has just been solitary. And so it's really, really easy when you're feeling unmotivated to let those walls come in a little bit and to feel a little isolated and feel a little cut off and to forget the impact that you're having and the people that you reach, because you're not seeing those people really. So that mechanism, whatever form it takes, I think is critical.
And I think actually that entrepreneurial loneliness, which I think is very, very common, is a good reason to bring things full circle, to be exploring memberships, both as a customer and maybe as something that you can offer out as an act of service in the wider sense. I think there's lots of ways to approach it.
Definitely.
Mike, this has been a lot of fun. Your 3 things are awesome.
Thank you.
If people are listening, they want to get a bit closer to you, how can they make that happen?
Yeah, so we mentioned membershipgeeks.com, where we've got a whole bunch of great free resources. Our own membership about memberships is called Membership Academy. That's at membershipacademy.com. And if you want to literally physically get a little closer with myself and other membership owners, this September, we are getting together for Retain Live 2025, which is the only in-person conference for membership owners happening in my hometown, Newcastle upon Tyne. So that is happening September 22nd to 24th. And all the details there are at retainlive.com. That's going to be a fantastic time. Room full of membership owners. Like I said, some of the most interesting people I've ever met are membership owners, all in that room for great speakers, masterminding, networking, connection, fun, parties, all that stuff, all centered around growing a membership. So that's at retainlive.com. And just to sneak in the little mention that early bird tickets are only available to the end of April. And yeah, that means just got a few weeks.
Pull your finger out.
Yes.
Well, I'm hoping I'm going to be there. Obviously, I'm going to have to make that decision before the end of April. I think I'm around in September. I should have mentioned that conference a lot earlier than this. So I'll stick it in the show notes as the first thing people see. Mike Morrison, conference owner, September, early bird tickets. Go for it.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Mike, this has been a lot of fun. I know you're writing a book, so you're going to be coming back sometime soon. But for now, thank you very much.
My pleasure, Bob. It's always fun to talk to you.
So for you at home, that does bring us to the end of another episode. Thanks for listening. And if you did enjoy the show, you will love the Personal Brand Business Roadmap. It's 50 pages of everything you need to start, scale, and fix your expert business. Again, if you did enjoy this show, tell a friend. And as a signal of your appreciation, a review would be awesome. And if they're asking for stars, it's 5, like the fingers on your hand, not 4 or 3 or 2, as somebody did recently. You know who you are. The thing with the reviews, it puts the name above. So I have a hit out on them. Mike, thank you for your time. You're home. Thanks, and see you next time.